Coming up today, a South Korean civic group is in North Korea to discuss preparations for a possible joint event to mark the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. The Korean economy grows a mere 0.3% in the second quarter as the MERS outbreak and the prolonged drought took a bite out of economic activity in the nation. Plus, the floor leaders of Korea's main political parties will make another attempt to reach a compromise regarding a probe into the growing spy agency hacking scandal and the size of the supplementary budget bill. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Thursday, the 23rd of July. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this afternoon, South Korea says it will support a joint Liberation Day celebration with North Korea if civic groups from the two Koreas reach an agreement on the matter today. A high-level government official says Seoul is trying to improve inter-Korean ties through civilian exchanges, which is why it approved the South Korean group's request to visit the north. That civic group is currently in the North Korean border town of Kaesong, is expected to suggest holding simultaneous celebrations in Seoul and Pyongyang to mark the day, the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. The North Korean group is expected to ask the South Korean group to participate in an event in Pyongyang. Now, if the two sides agree to co-host an event, it will be the first time in 10 years that the two Koreas celebrate Liberation Day together. The South Korean economy expanded at a much slower pace in the April to June period, growing just 0.3% on quarter. The Bank of Korea attributes the snail-paced growth to the recent MERS outbreak and one of the worst droughts in living memory. Shin Se-min reports.
Korea's economic growth fell by more than half in the second quarter from the first 3 months of this year, posting the weakest growth in 6 years. The Bank of Korea said Thursday that the country's gross domestic product grew a mere 0.3% in the April-June period, contracting from the 0.8% growth in the previous quarter. The Korean economy expanded 2.2% compared to the same period last year. The central bank blames a drop in consumer spending driven by the MERS outbreak that fell 0.3% from the first quarter, along with the poor performance in the agricultural and fishery sectors hit hard by a nationwide drought.
Although the agricultural and fishery sectors only take up 2.1% of the total GDP calculation, a drop of over 11% in the sectors significantly contributed to the slower growth in second quarter.
During the past 3 months, the central bank says the government's spending growth picked up steam by 0.5 percentage points from 0.2, while facilities investment rose to 0.4. These figures come less than a month after the central bank slashed its growth outlook to 2.8 for this year from its previous projection of 3.1. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The floor leaders of Korea's main rival parties plan to hold a meeting today in another attempt to reach a compromise regarding the growing spy agency hacking scandal and the supplementary budget bill. The move comes after the two parties failed to narrow their differences on both issues on Wednesday. The main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, proposed a parliamentary hearing on the hacking allegations against the National Intelligence Service. But the ruling Syriza party opposes the move and is instead calling for conducting an on-site inspection first. In regards to the supplementary budget bill, the two parties disagreed on how to make up for this year's anticipated tax revenue shortfall. They remain at loggerheads over the deadline as well. The ruling party wants the extra budget passed before the end of the July session on Friday. Tomorrow, the MPAD, however, says it never agreed to hold a plenary session on that day. President Park Geun-hye's closest aides, top government officials and leaders of the ruling party held a three-way policy meeting on Wednesday. After a turbulent few weeks, the presidential office and the ruling party agreed that they share the same goals and will pull in the same direction from now on. Ji Myung-gil has more.
During Wednesday's policy consultation meeting, seeking parliamentary approval for a $10 billion supplementary budget and reforming Korea's rigid labor market were at the top of the agenda. At the start of the meeting, Presidential Chief of Staff Lee Byung-gi asked the ruling Sedona party for its full support to assure the success of President Park's administration.
The government cannot succeed without the support from the ruling party. The party's future also depends on the success of the incumbent government.
Party's chairman Kim Moo-sung and floor leader Won Yu-chol acknowledged that the three entities were on the same boat when it comes to improving the livelihoods of the people.
Our party, the government, and the presidential office must unite as one to practice politics that serves the interests of the people.
Floor leader Won said he would do his best to seek cooperation with the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy in order to pass the extra budget bill by Friday. However, the NPAD is calling for a drastic cut to the supplementary budget and is urging the government to raise the corporate tax rate to reduce the fiscal deficit. In regards to reforming the domestic labor market, the ruling party agreed to launch a special labor reform committee internally, headed by Lee In-jae, the party's Supreme Council member, to assess President Park's determination to overhaul the labor market in the second half of the year. President Park recently showed her willingness to revamp the discrepancies between wages paid to regular and non-regular workers, a source to the deepening labor market polarization in Korea. The participants also agreed to push for reforming the finance, public and education fronts by launching special reform committees for each sector. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Korea and Japan are in negotiations to hold senior-level defense talks early next month. If agreed, they will be the first such talks since Japan's lower house approved a controversial change to the country's security policy. Government sources in Korea say Seoul plans to ask about the change, focusing on Japan's decision to exercise its right to collective self-defense or aiding an ally under attack, and how that will affect Korea going forward. Now, the Korean government has emphasized on numerous occasions that Tokyo must gain prior consent from Seoul before the Japanese military can enter Korean territory in the case of an emergency. Korea is naturally hesitant to let Japanese forces into the country as it feels Japan has yet to atone for its harsh colonial rule from 1910 to 1945. A majority of Japanese say they don't want the country's post-war pacifist constitution to change. This is according to a new poll conducted by Kyodo News Agency. It showed that 60% of Japanese believe the constitution should not be altered. Only 32% said it should be changed. The figures indicate sentiment against changing the constitution may have grown amid Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's efforts to push through increasingly unpopular legislation to expand Japan's military role overseas. In addition, the poll found 52% of respondents think Japan is going in the wrong direction, more than the 46% who believe it is heading in the right direction. Kyodo News implemented the mail-based poll from May to June to look into public opinion ahead of the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. Donald Trump, the flamboyant American billionaire and Republican presidential hopeful, has criticized South Korea for relying on the United States for defense when it has plenty of money of its own. Now, he's built himself a reputation as a straight shooter, but he might want to get his facts straight about this particular matter. Son Jong-in has more.
During a campaign speech in South Carolina this week, Donald Trump said Saudi Arabia makes $1 billion a day and yet receives protection from the U.S. military without giving anything back in return. He then mentioned South Korea, only to be cut off by a member of the audience who apparently shouted the word crazy.
South Korea, crazy is right? Who said that? Stand up. Stand up. He said it's crazy. It's true. It's true. It's crazy. They make $1 billion a day.
Trump is believed to have insinuated that South Korea was enjoying a free security ride on U.S. taxpayers' money when it is making a lot of money on its own. However, Trump's remarks clearly show he's oblivious to the fact that the South Korean government has long shared the cost of stationing U.S. forces here. Also, it's a widely held view that the American military presence on the Korean peninsula is in line with U.S. national interests, raising questions over his insight and legitimacy on foreign policy. Trump's popularity has surged among Republicans following a series of blunt comments over recent days. Political watchers say Trump's remarks about South Korea and his verbal attacks on undocumented Mexican immigrants are mostly a strategy to draw more attention to his campaign. 손정인, Arirang News.
Now to the latest on the Greek debt crisis, and the country's embattled Prime Minister has vowed to keep his fractured Syriza party in line ahead of another key vote on a second set of reforms needed to secure the country's multi-billion-euro bailout deal. Alexis Tsipras says rebel MPs within the party need to stop hiding behind him and his signature and represent the Greek people who have, quote, pinned their hopes, end quote, on staying in the Eurozone and staying in the single currency. If Parliament approves the financial and judicial reforms, Athens will be able to open negotiations for an €86 billion bailout from its international creditors. The vote is expected to pass with the support of opposition parties. Commodity prices are expected to remain weak this year. This is according to a report by the World Bank, which forecasts average energy prices such as crude oil and natural gas to fall nearly 40% in 2015 from the previous year. The bank attributes the decline to abundant supplies. Energy prices rose 12% in the first quarter, thanks to an increase in oil prices, which offset losses in natural gas and coal. However, despite an upward revision to the price outlook for oil this year, the report said prices could remain weak in the medium term due to large inventories and rising output from OPEC members. The report added that higher than expected production from non-OPEC countries could also pose a threat. Kia Motors' 2015 Sedona has won the Best Minivan Award in a comprehensive poll of American drivers. The J.D. Power Automotive Performance, Execution and Layout Award is based on responses gathered from almost 85,000 buyers and leasers of the new 2015 model year cars and light trucks. The poll, carried out between February and May, measured the owners' overall satisfaction with their vehicles in the first 90 days of ownership. The latest Sedona has been smashing Kia's previous sales records in the US since its release. The model has also been receiving high praise from both drivers and media, including popular US magazine Motor Trend. Today is Jungbok here in Korea, meaning it's the midpoint of the hottest part of the summer, this according to the lunar calendar. On this day, Koreans traditionally head to a samgyetang restaurant to have chicken ginseng soup to get extra energy to battle the heat. But as our Handan tells us, there are many other healthy foods out there that will give you a boost when the mercury rises.
This is the traditional Korean dish samgyetang, stuffed with rice, ginseng, garlic, and other herbs. The chicken ginseng soup, with its unique fresh taste, is the must-have meal for Koreans during the scorching summer heat.
The various oriental herbs in samgyetang help warm up the body by boosting blood circulation.
The chicken soup is good, especially for people who suffer from cold hands and feet. But if your body holds on to heat well, samgyetang may not be the best way to recharge your energy during the summer. If you're one of those people, you might want to try eel soup or broiled duck, which help cool the body down. Seafood can also help you stay healthy during the hot weather. Octopus is especially good for people who get tired easily, as its taurine acid helps strengthen liver functions. For the elderly or children, high-protein and low-fat abalone or croaker are recommended to boost the immune system.
Seafood has the unique function of counterbalancing. During the summer, it helps your body maintain the necessary balance.
If you have a weak metabolism or your body swells up easily, doctors suggest avoiding the kinds of food Koreans enjoy to beat the heat. They say for those people, fruit and vegetables that hydrate you and provide a good supply of vitamins are the perfect summer health food. 한다은, Arirang News.
Now, before we go, let's leave you with a brief look at the weather on this Jungbok here in Korea. And it's monsoon season, although you might not know it considering the general lack of rain. That said, we are likely to get a soaking today with monsoon rain moving northward from Jeju Island and the southern coast to the central region by this afternoon. The northern parts of Gangwon-do and Gyeonggi-do provinces will receive up to 120 millimeters of rain. The rest of the country will see 30 to 80 millimeters through early Saturday. In some regions, the rain will be accompanied by strong gusty winds and thunderstorms, so take care if you're going outside. Temperature-wise, the highs during the day will range from 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, and a word of warning, it does feel very muggy. The heat will linger throughout the night as well. The overnight low in Seoul is forecast to be 25 degrees plus, meaning it'll be classified as a tropical night. Well, those are the latest stories we have for you at this hour. For more news, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.com/news. Until tomorrow, goodbye.